Hi, guys. Welcome back to our Luke series. We're on chapter 22 today, and this is where it starts getting crazy, okay? If you've ever been to a passion play, then this is going to be undoubtedly included in part of the passion play. This is the moment where the tables turn and we find out the true purpose of why Jesus lived his life on earth. So, let's begin. Chapter 22. The festival of thin bread, also called Passover, was near. The chief priests and the teachers of the law of Moses were looking for a way to get rid of Jesus because they were afraid of what the people might do. Then Satan entered the heart of Judas Iscariot, who was one of the 12 apostles. Judas went to talk with the chief priests and the officers of the temple police about how he could help them arrest Jesus. They were very pleased and offered to pay Judas some money. He agreed and started looking for a good chance to betray Jesus when the crowds were not around. The day had come for the festival of the thin bread, and it was time to kill the Passover lambs. So Jesus said to Peter and John, "Go and prepare the Passover meal for us to eat." But they asked, "Where do you want us to prepare it?" Jesus told them, "As you go into the city, you will meet a man carrying a jar of water. Follow him into the house and say to the owner, 'Our teacher wants to know where he can eat the Passover meal with his disciples.' The owner will take you upstairs and show you a large room ready for you to use. Prepare the meal there." Okay, don't miss the miraculous. Do you see what's happening here? Oh man, this has happened twice now. The first time this happened was back in chapter 19, verse 30. Jesus instructed them to go find a donkey. Remember this? And exactly as he told them is how it happened. And did you ever think about that? Think about this. In this time, donkeys would be represented by our cars, your automobile, what you drive to work and to get things done that you are a necessity. I mean, cars are very important to us in today's culture. Everybody has one, if not two, cars in a household. And if somebody came up to you into your driveway and started to get into your car, you're going to be like, "Hey, can I help you?" And they're like, "Oh, the Lord needs this." And you're just going to go, "Okay." This is kind of that moment, you understand? And now it's happening again. Jesus says, "Okay, you're going to go into town. You're going to find a guy carrying a jar of water. And when you see that guy, follow him. And as you follow him, he's going to go into a house. Follow him into the house. And when you get in the house, go up to the guy that owns the house and say, 'What's up? How's it going? How'd you get in here?' 'Hi. Yeah, well, hey, our teacher needs a place to kind of have supper tonight. And, it's a special, like, for them, this was like the big Christmas dinner. This is really a big deal. I know you got your own preparations going on. Looks like you have a nice meal down here. Do you have a place where we could do that?' The guy goes, 'Yeah, actually upstairs. Here, let me show you.' You go upstairs and it's all set up ready for you. This is not happenstance. This is not by chance. This proves that Jesus wasn't just a mere man. He is pointing out things exactly as they're about to happen. That's incredible. Let's keep reading. Peter and John left. They found everything just as Jesus had told them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When the time came for Jesus and the apostles to eat, he said to them, "I have very much wanted to eat this Passover meal with you before I suffer. I tell you that I will not eat another Passover meal until it is finally eaten in God's kingdom." Jesus took a cup of wine in his hands and gave thanks to God. Then he told the apostles, "Take this wine and share it with each other. I tell you that I will not drink any more wine until God's kingdom comes." Jesus took some bread in his hands and gave thanks for it. He broke the bread and handed it to his apostles. Then he said, "This is my body, which is given for you. Eat this as a way of remembering me." After the meal, he took another cup of wine in his hands. Then he said, "This is my blood. It is poured out for you, and with it, God makes his new agreement. The one who will betray me is here at the table with me. The Son of Man will die in the way that has been decided for him, but it will be terrible for the one who betrays him." Then the apostles started arguing about who would ever do such a thing. The apostles got into an argument about which one of them was the greatest. So Jesus told them, "Foreign kings order their people around, and powerful rulers call themselves everyone's friends. But don't be like them. The most important one of you should be like the least important, and your leader should be like a servant." Who do people think is the greatest? A person who is served or one who serves? Isn't it the one who is served? But I have been with you as a servant. You have stayed with me in all my troubles. So I will give you the right to rule as kings, just as my Father has given me the right to rule as a king. You will eat and drink with me in my kingdom, and you will each sit on a throne to judge the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus said, "Simon, listen to me. Satan has demanded the right to test each one of you, as a farmer does when he separates wheat from the husks. But Simon, I have prayed that your faith will be strong, and when you have come back to me, help the others." Peter said, "Lord, I am ready to go with you to jail and even to die with you." Jesus replied, "Peter, I tell you that before a rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." Jesus asked his disciples, "When I sent you out without a money bag or a traveling bag or sandals, did you need anything?" "No," they answered. Jesus told them, "But now, if you have a money bag, take it with you. Also take a traveling bag. And if you don't have a sword, sell some of your clothes and buy one. Do this because the scriptures say he was considered a criminal. This was written about me, and it will soon come true." The disciples said, "Lord, here are 2 swords." "Enough of that," Jesus replied. Now, I envision this last scene was funny. And like oftentimes, you ever been in a group and everybody starts laughing when somebody says something, you're like, okay, what did I miss? There must be a story behind this. Well, guys, think about it. There's a story behind this part. This was actually a funny moment. Because here's the thing. Every time Jesus spoke, he spoke what? He was speaking about turn the other cheek. Don't take up swords. He was always talking about if your enemy comes against you, love your enemy. Show them compassion. Show them forgiveness. And he said this over and over and over. Now, a bunch of guys that traveled with him, a bunch of the disciples, were not of that thinking. Their thinking was, okay, we're under Roman occupation, and we need to get out from underneath the foot of Rome. We are sick and tired of being ruled, trampled over, our people being abused, our people starving, going without. So we're going to fight back. It's time to take up your swords, people. Let's start fighting back against the Romans. And so when they see Jesus coming, they're thinking, okay, he's teaching nice now, but at any moment, Jesus surely is going to tell us to grab our swords and go into battle and fight the Romans, and Jesus will lead us. He'll be our great general. He'll be a great king like we've had kings of old who always led our armies to victory. They were anticipating this with Jesus. They were hoping for this with Jesus. And so you got to know that it was almost like common, like those guys would be like, okay, Jesus, we're going to fight him now. And Jesus is going, come on, guys. It's not about fighting. You know that. And so here's this moment where Jesus goes, okay, all right, now I'm going to tell you, go buy a sword. And before he can say any more, they're like, here's 2 swords. Pick one, Jesus, take one. And so Jesus is like, cut it out, guys. Come on, enough of that. And they all start laughing. This is that moment where it's like, oh, come on, guys. You know what I mean. And it's a funny moment. Jesus had an incredible sense of humor. And it shows the guys around him had a good sense of humor too. Let's keep reading. Jesus went out to the Mount of Olives, as he often did, and his disciples went with him. When they got there, he told them, pray that you won't be tested. Jesus walked on a little way before he knelt down and prayed. Father, if you will, please don't make me suffer by having me drink from this cup. But do what you want and not what I want. Then an angel from heaven came to him. Jesus was in great pain and prayed so sincerely that his sweat fell to the ground like drops of blood. Jesus got up from praying and went over to his disciples. They were asleep and worn out from being so sad. He said to them, "Why are you asleep? Wake up and pray that you won't be tested." While Jesus was still speaking, a crowd came up. It was led by Judas, one of the 12 apostles. He went over to Jesus and greeted him with a kiss. Jesus asked Judas, "Are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" When Jesus' disciples saw what was about to happen, they asked, "Lord, should we attack them with a sword?" One of the disciples even struck at the high priest's servant with his sword and cut off the servant's right ear. "Enough of that," Jesus said. Then he touched the servant's ear and healed it. Could you imagine the conflict on the minds of the soldiers in this moment? It's already tense. They never went to arrest Jesus before because there was always a crowd around him. They had to get him a place where there wasn't a crowd because they were afraid of an uprising. So they find him in this dark garden, and he's out alone with the disciples. So this is their moment to arrest him. But they're still not sure what's going to happen when we arrest this guy. One of them gets an ear cut off in a moment of panic, right? And before they can even respond or do anything, Jesus reaches up and heals the guy's ear. So you're a soldier, you look next to you, you're tense, you're pulling your sword out of the sheath and going, "Oh my gosh, what's about to happen?" And your friend's ear is healed. The guy who you're supposed to arrest performs an act of compassion and love that you cannot comprehend. This has never happened before. You've never gone into battle and had an enemy come to you and actually do something of compassion and love towards you before. Had to have been conflicting, to say the least. And we know it impacted many of these soldiers that day. Let's keep reading. Jesus spoke to the chief priests, the temple police, and the leaders who had come to arrest him. He said, "Why do you come out with swords and clubs and treat me like a criminal? I was with you every day in the temple, and you didn't arrest me. But this is your time, and darkness is in control." Jesus was arrested and led away to the house of the high priest, while Peter followed at a distance. Some people built a fire in the middle of the courtyard and were sitting around it. Peter sat there with them, and a servant girl saw him. Then after she had looked at him carefully, she said, "This man was with Jesus." Peter said, "Woman, I don't even know that man." A little later, someone else saw Peter and said, "You are one of them." "No, I'm not," Peter replied. About an hour later, another man insisted, "This man must have been with Jesus. They both come from Galilee." Peter replied, "I don't know what you are talking about." Right then, while Peter was still speaking, a rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked at Peter. And Peter remembered that the Lord had said, "Before a rooster crows tomorrow morning, you will say 3 times that you don't know me." Then Peter went out and cried hard. Those eyes. I imagine Jesus had the kind of eyes that would pierce straight into your soul as you looked into them. And I could only imagine in that moment when Jesus looked towards Peter and their eyes made contact, Peter was crushed. And he went out and cried. I think I would have too. The men who were guarding Jesus made fun of him and beat him. They put a blindfold on him and said, "Tell us who struck you." They kept on insulting Jesus in many other ways. At daybreak, the nation's leaders, the chief priests, and the teachers of the law of Moses got together and brought Jesus before their council. They said, "Tell us, are you the Messiah?" Jesus replied, "If I said so, you wouldn't believe me. And if I asked you a question, you wouldn't answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right side of God all-powerful." Then they asked, "Are you the Son of God?" Jesus answered, "You say I am." They replied, Why do we need more witnesses? He said it himself. Remember, Jesus had the power to end this and stop this right now. He had the ability, he had the power to stop it all right now. I mean, think about that. He could have stopped the whole charade, like now. But he didn't. He made a choice to put others first, above his own safety and above his own wants. You see, it's now that he would reveal his true purpose. The mystery everyone was trying to figure out for 30 years of his life to this moment and kept guessing it. Why are you here? What are you doing? But everyone, and I mean everyone, had it wrong. Just like you and I, they wanted Jesus to make life more comfortable. They liked Jesus around as long as he was doing something that benefited them. They loved the idea of someone who was there to make life nice, to make life happy, less complicated, easier. And what's wrong with that? I mean, isn't it all right to have nice things and to want nice things? Of course. But like a parent and a child, like a parent knows with their child that sometimes what the child wants isn't really what the child needs. What the child thinks they want or what they think they need isn't truly what they need. A good parent knows that's how it works. We need redemption. We need our guilt, our condemnation removed. And there's only one way to do that. A sacrifice must be made on our behalf. And Jesus would become that sacrifice. No turning back now. The fate of Jesus is decided. And so next, Jesus is bound and arrested, and he's led to a powerful man who could make a decision to either set Jesus free or condemn him to death. Let's find out what happens next time.